Remember the best new band out, 100 gecs?
If you were listening to music in 2019, then you might remember how hard it was to escape this album.
What the fuck is up,
Hey,
Coachella?
piss, baby. You think you're so fucking cool, huh? You think you're so fucking tough? You talk a lot of big game for someone such a small truck. Oh, look at those arms. Your arms look so fucking cute. They look like little cigarettes. I bet I could smoke you. I could roast you. And then you'd love it. You text me, I love you.
Don't if you don't. Hey, we've been working on a new album. So, we're going to be playing some songs from that tonight. Here's one of them. This one is one of them.
100 gecs were definitely 2019's breakthrough artists, with their debut album 1000 gecs absolutely blowing up and dominating the hyperpop scene and changing the way people think about music forever. Their latest release, 10,000 gecs though, just goes to show how they managed to break through that hyperpop barrier by being a clash of pop punk, ska punk, and even metal, all while maintaining some of that nostalgic internet core. So today, sit back as we look back into 100 gecs and how they seemingly blew up overnight and managed to redefine the music industry. 100 gecs is a genre-defying music duo composed of Dylan Brady and Laura Les, both of whom grew up in the suburbs of St. Louis, Missouri. Though they had very different upbringings and personal experiences, their mutual passion for music and creativity eventually brought them together in a way that would redefine hyperpop. Dylan's childhood was marked by personal upheaval. His parents divorced when he was just 11, and he rarely saw his father after that.
What about you? Your folks stayed together?
No.
When did they split?
11.
At 11? So you have probably strong memories of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did
Sucked.
it sucked?
Yeah.
Did you have to go through the whole who do you want to live with choices?
No.
Yeah, what it was just decided for you?
Yeah.
Who'd you go with?
Mom.
Yeah.
Dad moved to Hannibal, Missouri, then Florida.
So how often would you get to see him?
I've probably seen him 5 times since then.
Music would become a consistent outlet for him, and he remained dedicated to it throughout his adolescence, performing in his high school choir throughout all 4 years.
I think I heard something when we were back in the green room about choir.
Oh yeah.
Were you guys were you choir kids?
I was.
You were.
Yeah.
Were you? No.
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 Not like choir club or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Choir, church choir, school choir?
School choir.
School choirs.
High school, 4 years.
Oh, all 4 years?
Yeah.
Wow. Would you go on trips and stuff like that for the choir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every other year. So
Nice.
we went on 2. Shouts out Dave Cannon.
Shout out to Dave Cannon.
Shout out Dave Cannon.
The GOAT.
Laura, on the other hand, grew up as a self-described, chronically online kid, having access to a laptop from a young age. She spent a lot of time on the internet and enjoyed going to the theater with her grandmother. She picked up the guitar as a young teen and began shaping her own musical identity early on.
I always had a computer in my room.
Yeah.
So I think that was big for me because I
Grew
could
up on the internet?
yeah, web crawling and YouTube holes and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of
Rotten.com.
Rotten.com. Wow.
Just kidding.
I was like, I haven't heard that in so long. What kind of YouTube K-holes would you go down?
I used to watch a lot of secret Pokemon videos, if you go under the truck type stuff.
Yeah.
And they would always be soundtracked with these nightcore tracks, or a lot of them were, and they were really cool. Naruto AMVs. I went to a lot of plays. My grandma used to have season passes to this big theater in St. Louis, so we'd go see plays all the time.
That's amazing.
And I liked Clay.
Was there one that stuck out to you where you're like, oh,
I used to love Phantom of the Opera. That was my shit.
Oh yeah.
I asked my grandma to take me there every season.
Despite growing up in the same area, Dylan and Laura didn't attend the same school. However, they shared mutual friends and therefore had overlapping social circles, which led them to cross paths at a house party during their final year of high school. It was at this party that Dylan played some of the music he had been working on with a friend. Laura was instantly captivated, not just by the music, but by the energy of the entire moment. She knew right then and there she wanted to create something like that herself. Thanks to their mutual connections, Laura was able to get in touch with Dylan shortly after the party. The two clicked immediately. In fact, Laura has said that Dylan is the only artist she's ever considered truly like-minded to her.
Dylan is the first person who I've worked with that I've been like, we are like-minded.
That's amazing.
At the time, Dylan was in the early stages of forming a band with another friend and invited Laura to join. She eagerly agreed. But just as things were beginning to take off creatively, life intervened. High school ended, and the two went off to college. Dylan stayed local in St. Louis, while Laura moved to Chicago for school, which made collaborating in person nearly impossible. Still, the distance didn't stop them. Both Dylan and Laura used Logic Pro to produce music, so they began sending each other project files, unfinished tracks, beats, and ideas to build off one another's work. This long-distance collaboration allowed them to continue shaping their sound even while apart. During this time, Laura released her first EP, Hello Kitty Skates to the Fucking Cemetery, a 5-track project that leaned into a distorted metal aesthetic. One of the songs even featured Dylan. Meanwhile, Dylan had also been steadily pursuing his own music, enough to warrant an entire deep dive into just that if you guys wanted a video. Let me know in the comments below. After her first year of college, Laura returned home for the summer and was finally able to reconnect with Dylan in person. That summer reignited her creative fire. The duo stayed close, and during holiday break, Dylan went to go visit Laura in Chicago. They locked themselves in her dorm room and focused entirely on making music. The result of that intense creative isolation? 100 gecs. On January 2nd, 2017, 100 gecs released their debut self-titled EP, introducing the world to a sound that would eventually help define the hyperpop genre. The 5-track project was chaotic, distorted, and energetic, drawing heavy inspiration from Nightcore, early 2010s AMVs, and just internet culture as a whole. It was unlike anything most listeners had ever heard before, but interestingly enough, the EP almost sounded completely different than the version we know today. According to Dylan and Laura, they originally had an entirely different version of the project completed. However, after listening to it back, they felt it was too simple and boring, so they scrapped almost everything and decided to restart. The result was a sonic experiment that pushed boundaries, both musically and emotionally. The project kicks off with Dog Food, a song that immediately sets the tone for what's to come. It begins as an upbeat, anime-inspired hip-hop pop track before violently shifting into a wall of pure noise music, and then slowing down into a heavy distorted guitar outro. The vocals are saturated in auto-tune, pitched up to sound artificial and almost alien-like, clearly channeling those Nightcore influences. And yet, despite the chaos, the songwriting remains intentional and melodic. Lyrically, Dog Food dives into themes of mental health, digital fatigue, and disconnection, universal feelings for young adults growing up in an overwhelmingly online world. Whether it's the quiet melancholy of scrolling endlessly through social media, or existential boredom from digital overstimulation, this song captures it all. Next up is Gum, arguably the standout track of the EP. It perfectly encapsulates that numbing feeling of being stuck in a loop, lying in bed, watching the same videos, playing the same games, refreshing the same apps. The track is catchy, hypnotic, and emotionally honest in a way that feels both surreal yet deeply relatable. Following that is Bloodstains, the only song from the original version of the EP that survived the reboot.
I'm just staring at my empty cans that sprawl across my floor. I'm smoking dope in empty cans I got from corner stores.
Stylistically, it keeps the upbeat momentum of Gum, but adds more melodic structure and flow. It also happens to be my all-time favorite 100 gecs song. I mean, I can never get this thing out of my head. Like seriously, send help. As the EP progresses, you may notice something interesting. Each song transitions into the next with eerie horror-inspired like sound effects. These outros serve as connective tissue between tracks, creating a cinematic, almost unsettling atmosphere that ties the project together into a cohesive whole. One of the EP's more curious elements is its recurring imagery of dogs and teeth. The 4th track, Fuck Teeth, continues the chaos with aggressive vocals and glitchy instrumentation. And in Bloodstains, there's a line that literally goes, "We'll feed a doggo playing looking good with new veneers." It's weird, specific, and strangely poetic. hallmarks of gecs' lyrical style. The final track, 25 Bands and a Gecko, doubles down on the canine theme, even replacing kick drums with actual dog barks. Whether there's deeper symbolism behind the dogs and teeth remains a mystery. 100 gecs have never publicly explained it, but the imagery is consistent and surreal, adding just yet another layer of intrigue to the EP. Despite its experimental nature, or perhaps because of it, the EP quickly became an internet sensation, blowing away even the duo's own expectations. It resonated with a growing community of listeners who crave something fresh and weird and undeniably real. Enter the Minecraft Festival Coachella. In 2018, the creators behind Open Pit had an idea to host a music festival inside Minecraft. They called it Coachella, and it featured a lineup of hyperpop and electronic artists performing live in-game. One of those artists was Laura Les. Though she had never played Minecraft before, Laura immediately saw the potential. She understood how her music aligned with gaming culture and how powerful a virtual festival could be for reaching a new audience. But she didn't want to do it alone, so she called Dylan and asked if he wanted to be a part of her set. He said yes, and the two began working on new music specifically for the festival. And what came next? Well, you'll have to stay tuned to find out. By 2018, Dylan Brady was busier than ever with his solo projects, but his dedication to 100 gecs never wavered. Even though Laura Les wasn't living in LA yet, the duo continued to collaborate the way they always had, remotely through Logic Pro, sending files back and forth until every detail felt just right. As Coachella rolled around, Dylan and Laura had already cooked up a batch of new material, most of which has still never been officially released. One standout song from their set though was a track called Ringtone, which went off at the show and quickly became a fan favorite.
My boy's got his own ringtone. It's the only one I know, it's the only one I know. My boy's got his own ringtone.
The success of their Coachella set earned them a spot at the even bigger Minecraft musical event, Fire Festival, in 2019. By this point, the duo had committed to working on a full-length album. At Fire Festival, they previewed several tracks that would later appear on their debut LP, including Get, Gek to You, 745 Sticky, I Need Help Immediately, I Would Never Stop You, and their now iconic banger, Money Machine. The reaction? People were obsessed. It was clear that something huge was brewing. And after just 4 more months of remote collaboration, 100 gecs released their debut album, 1000 gecs, on May 31st, 2019. The album featured the songs they had premiered live in Minecraft, along with 3 new bangers, 800 dB Cloud, Stupid Horse, and Hand Crushed by a Mallet. And when I say this album blew up, it blew up, dude. It ranked number 42 on Pitchfork's Top 50 Albums of 2019, number 19 on the Rolling Stones, and number 1 on the New York Times. Their distinct, chaotic sound spread like wildfire across SoundCloud, Twitter, TikTok, and really any corner of the internet. It felt like anyone involved in any online niche had suddenly just became a 100 gecs fan overnight. 1000 gecs was hyperpop at its core, but it stretched the genre's boundaries in every direction, from SoundCloud rap to EDM rave to emo, pop punk, and even ska. It felt like a more professional, refined version of the earlier EP, but still carried the same rebellious spirit. Soon the buzz caught the attention of major labels. In fact, it was the CEO of Atlantic Records himself, Craig Kallman, who instructed his team to sign the duo, recalling 100 gecs music as a stop you dead in your tracks kind of moment. After signing the duo, they embarked on a national tour, growing their fan base with every stop. But once the tour wrapped, the two returned to their separate lives, working on solo projects and going back to living on opposite sides of the country. Just a few years later, the itch to collaborate again had returned though. They had dropped a few singles and remixes throughout 2020 and 2021, like the ska-inspired Christmas track, Sympathy for the Grinch,
Wanted some speakers, Xbox and t-shirts, I've been good like every single day.
a remix of Linkin Park's One Step Closer, and a feature on 303's Lonely Machine. But fans were still hungry for a full project. To hold them over, they surprise dropped a 3-song mixtape on December 2nd, 2022 titled Snake Eyes, which even contained a Skrillex feature. These songs showcase a return to classic gecs chaos, now infused with 2010's dubstep influences. Hey Big Man and Torture Me were fast-pitch shifted hyperpop anthems, while Runaway started slow and emotional before exploding into an electronic pop-punk climax. Fans were thrilled, and so were Dylan and Laura. By this time, Laura had finally moved to LA, not just for her career, but to also work with Dylan in person again. Both had entered new phases in life, married, homeowners, and approaching their late 20s. That maturity and the shift from remote collaboration to in-person creativity deeply influenced what would become their next album, 10,000 gecs. As they had done before, they nearly finished the album, and then kept tweaking it up until the final deadline. Fun fact, the CD version of the album will actually include alternate verses than the streaming version that you hear.
We had to finish it, and then it took forever to fucking get it from finished to out, annoyingly.
But the finishing process, there was a little bit of scrapping and starting again, right?
Yeah, I mean, like with everything. Like we always are scrapping shit and being like, nah, this could be better. I literally just changed something recently.
Wait, what did you change?
Can't tell you. No, well, actually, I guess everyone will know, right?
Yeah.
Because it's pretty apparent.
Yeah.
There's like 2 different verses in the streaming version as opposed to the record version. I was like, these verses, I want them to be different, so I changed them.
Oh, so we're coming right down to the deadline.
For streaming.
Down to the wire.
The record and the CDs will have the old one.
And I guess the version that I've heard will be different to the streaming version as well, because I've had this for a few months now.
Yeah, the press version, they're
The one we send to press is different than the vinyl too.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's like there's like 100 different versions because we just kept wanting to change shit.
The fader version, the pitchfork version, the Rolling Stone version.
All the video versions don't have the final master. It's just like, it's a whole fucking mess.
The result, though, is a project that feels like a natural evolution of their sound. Still chaotic, still genreless, but more polished and cohesive. Dumbest Girl Alive opens the album with more structured production and less randomness, while Laura experiments with new vocal effects and Dylan leans into a more pop-punk aesthetic. Hollywood Baby is a straight-up modern pop-punk song with real instruments and fewer Internetcore elements.
Clear blue sky, but it rains all the late fees.
Frog on the Floor channels late 90s, early 2000s ska punk vibes with seemingly nonsensical lyrics that become more symbolic the more you listen.
Frog on the floor, where did he come from? Nobody knows where he'll go.
Doritos and Fritos starts with a glitchy gecs sounds but transforms into a skater punk anthem. And as someone who went through a California skater punk phase myself, it's clear that they're drawing inspiration from bands like Rancid, Beck, No Use for a Name, the Bomb Pops. I mean, I could go on. Despite the shift in tone, their genre-defying identity remains intact. Sure, people still label them hyperpop, but when you listen closely to this album, it really has just as much in common with bands like Nine Inch Nails, Limp Bizkit, or even Linkin Park as much as it does with PC music. The hyperpop label sticks mostly because of their legacy at this point. Me 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 might be the most hyperpop sounding track on the album, blending metal, punk, and chopped up production that's similar to what you'd hear from a remix DJ. The Most Wanted Person in the United States brings in a sunny, bouncy, surfer punk energy with hazy, playful vocals. I Got My Tooth Removed starts soft and emotional before jumping right into a full-on ska punk breakdown. With 10,000 gecs, Dylan and Laura prove that they're not confined by genre, expectation, or internet trends. They took everything fans loved about their earlier work and evolved it, without losing that edge. Their music remains open to interpretation, emotionally resonant, and irresistibly weird. And that's exactly why they continue to be beloved by so many. Whether you're a fan of hyperpop, punk, EDM, ska, or just pure chaos, there's something in 100 gecs for you. And if history tells us anything, we're probably just scratching the surface of what 100 gecs is up to next. Regardless, the project is absolutely a step in a new and exciting direction for 100 gecs, who absolutely managed to break through their hyperpop barrier. Not only that, they are pioneers of this whole new genreless music. I mean, what do you call them? They fit into everything, Each of their songs have so many different influences and characteristics from separate genres that blend together to just sound like a totally new wave of nostalgia-core music. It's absolutely some of the most exciting new music to come out of today's world, and I personally cannot wait to see where 100 gecs goes next. And I'll be sitting right here waiting for 100,000 gecs to come out. And that, folks, is all I got for you. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments below. Do you like 100 gecs? Do you like Hyperpop? What do you think of the term Hyperpop? Anything. And on your way down there, don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps the channel and makes me feel good about myself. And I'll see you guys in the next video, for real. Peace.